The emergency alarm pierced through the quiet corridors of research. Station Omega as Alina Vasquez rushed toward the landing bay. Her heart pounded against her ribs while emergency lights bathed everything in crimson shadows. It's the station's lead xenobiologist. She had seen many crises, but something about this particular distress signal felt different. Through the viewing portal, Lena watched a small alien craft spiral out of control, its hull crackling with electrical damage. The ship crashed with a thunderous impact that shook the entire docking bay. Without hesitation, she grabbed her emergency medical kit and sprinted toward the wreckage. Smoke billowed from the twisted metal as Alina approached cautiously. Her scanner detected 2 life forms inside, one significantly weaker than the other. She pried open the damaged hatch and gasped at what she found. A tall, elegant alien woman with iridescent blue skin lay unconscious, her breathing shallow but steady. Beside her, a much smaller figure whimpered in pain. The child couldn't have been more than 8 years old in human terms. With the same beautiful blue skin as her companion, but marred by deep gashes across her delicate features. Strange symbols glowed faintly along her arms, pulsing in rhythm with her labored breathing. Lena's training kicked in immediately as she assessed the injuries. "It's okay, little one," Elena whispered softly, though she wasn't sure if the child could understand. "I'm here to help." The child's large silver eyes fluttered open, filled with fear and confusion. She tried to speak, but only managed a weak whimper. Elena's heart broke at the sight of such pain in someone so young. Without thinking twice, she scooped the injured child into her arms. Dr. Marcus Webb's voice crackled through her communicator. "Alina, you need to wait for the diplomatic team. We don't know their customs regarding medical intervention." "This child is dying," Elena replied firmly, carrying the small alien toward the medical bay. "I won't stand by and watch that happen because of protocol." The medical bay's advanced scanners revealed the extent of the child's injuries. Internal bleeding, several fractured bones, and something Alina had never seen before, the glowing symbols on the child's skin were actually part of her nervous system, and they were failing. Without immediate intervention, the child would die within hours. Alina worked tirelessly through the night, using every piece of knowledge she had about alien physiology. She carefully repaired the damaged neural pathways, stabilized the internal bleeding, and set the fractured bones. The child's breathing gradually became stronger, and the symbols began to glow more brightly. As dawn broke over the station, Alina finally allowed herself to rest. She had done everything possible, but only time would tell if it was enough. The child lay peacefully in the medical bed, her small hand curled around Elena's finger with surprising strength. "You're going to be okay," Elena murmured, gently stroking the child's forehead. "Whatever happens, you're safe now." The adult alien had been moved to a separate recovery ward, still unconscious but stable. Elena couldn't help but wonder about their relationship. The protective way the woman had shielded the child during the crash suggested they were family. Perhaps mother and daughter? Ambassador Kane arrived later that morning, his expression stern with disapproval. "Dr. Vasquez, you've potentially caused a diplomatic incident. The Astral Coalition has very specific protocols about medical treatment." "Then they should have gotten here faster," Elena replied without looking up from her patient. This child needed immediate care. As if responding to her voice, the little girl's eyes opened. This time they held recognition, and something that made Elena's chest tighten with emotion, gratitude. The child tried to sit up, wincing slightly from her healing injuries. "Easy there," Elena said gently, helping her settle back against the pillows. "You need to rest." The child spoke in her native language, her voice soft and melodic despite her weakness. Elena wished she could understand, but the universal translator wasn't calibrated for this particular dialect yet. Suddenly alarms began blaring throughout the station. Lena looked up at the display screen to see several large ships approaching. At high speed, their design was unlike anything in the station's database, sleek and powerful, with an almost predatory elegance. "They're here," Ambassador Kane said grimly. "The Astral Coalition fleet. And from the look of those ships, they're not coming for a friendly chat." Lena instinctively moved closer to the child's bedside. Whatever was about to happen, she knew her life had changed forever. the moment she decided to save this little girl. The approaching fleet represented the unknown, but as she looked down at the child's trusting eyes, Alina knew she would make the same choice again. The station shuddered as the coalition ships docked with military precision. Alina remained at the child's bedside, her protective instincts flaring as heavy footsteps echoed through the corridors. The little girl had introduced herself as Nyx. Through gestures and broken universal standard, and Alina had grown deeply attached to her patient over the past few hours. The medical bay doors burst open with a force that made. A tall, imposing figure strode in her presence. Commanding immediate attention, she stood nearly 7 feet tall, with the same iridescent blue skin as Nyx, but bearing intricate tattoos that seemed to move across her arms like liquid silver. Her eyes blazed with fury and desperation as they swept the room. "Where is she?" the woman demanded, in accented but clear human standard. Her voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed without question. Alina stepped protectively in front of Nyx's bed. "Are you her mother?" "I am Commander Zephyr of the Astral Coalition 3rd Fleet," the alien woman announced, her gaze never leaving the small figure behind Alina. "And yes, Nyx is my daughter." "Stand aside, human," Alina said firmly, not moving. Any sudden movement could reopen her neural pathways. "She needs at least another day of observation." Zephyr's eyes narrowed dangerously. "You dare lecture me about my own child? You had no right to touch her without permission. In our culture, such interference is considered an act of violation." "In my culture," Alina shot back, surprising herself with her boldness, "letting a child die when you have the power to save her is considered murder." The tension in the room was palpable as the two women faced each other. Dr. Webb stepped forward nervously, but Alina held up a hand to stop him. This was between her and Zephyr now. "You know nothing of our ways," Zephyr continued, her voice low and threatening. "The ritual scars on Nyx's body are sacred. They connect her to our ancestors and guide her spiritual development. Your crude medical procedures may have damaged them irreparably." Alina felt a pang of uncertainty. Had she inadvertently harmed the child she was trying to save? But then Nyx's weak voice called out in her native tongue, and Zephyr's expression immediately softened as she looked at her daughter. "She says you saved her life," Zephyr translated, her anger wavering slightly. "She says you stayed with her all night, singing strange human songs." "I wanted her to know she wasn't alone," Alina admitted quietly. No child should face death in silence and fear. For a moment, something flickered in Zephyr's eyes, a recognition of the maternal instinct that transcended species. But her military bearing quickly reasserted itself. "Regardless of your intentions, you have interfered in coalition affairs. There will be consequences." Zephyr moved toward the bed, and Alina reluctantly stepped aside. The reunion between mother and daughter was heartbreaking in its tenderness. Zephyr's fierce demeanor crumbled as she gathered Nyx into her arms, whispering words of love and relief in their lyrical language. Alina watched from a distance, feeling both honored to witness such intimacy and acutely aware of her status as an outsider. "The child cannot be moved yet," Dr. Webb interjected diplomatically. "Her condition is stable but still delicate. Perhaps we could arrange for Commander Zephyr to remain here during the recovery period." Zephyr's head snapped up. "I will not. Leave my daughter in human hands again." "And stay," Alina said impulsively. "Monitor her care yourself. But please, let me continue treating her. I've studied her physiology extensively over the past day. I know what she needs. You would trust me to remain here?" Zephyr asked suspiciously. "Your security forces could easily detain me." Alina met her gaze steadily. "You're a mother protecting her child. I understand that better than you might think." Ambassador Kane looked horrified at the diplomatic implications, but Alina ignored his protests. Something about Zephyr called to her on a level deeper than politics or protocol. The fierce devotion in the alien woman's eyes reminded Alina of her own mother's protectiveness. "One day," Zephyr said, finally, "you have one day to prove that your treatment is helping her. If I see any sign that she's getting worse—" "She won't," Alina promised. "I give you my word." As the tension gradually eased, Alina found herself studying Zephyr more closely. Despite her intimidating presence, there were subtle signs of exhaustion and worry etched into her features. The commander had probably traveled across the galaxy without rest, driven by fear for her child. "When did you last eat?" Alina asked quietly. Zephyr looked startled by the personal question. "That's not your concern. It is if you collapse from exhaustion while I'm trying to treat your daughter," Alina replied practically. "There's a quiet room next door where you can rest and still hear if Nyx needs you." For the first time, Zephyr's expression showed something. Other than anger or suspicion, she looked almost vulnerable as she glanced between Alina and her sleeping daughter. "I will not leave her side," she said firmly. Alina nodded, understanding completely. "Then I'll have meals brought here for both of you, and Commander." She paused at the doorway. "For what it's worth, Nyx is an incredible little girl. Should be proud." Zephyr's response was so quiet Alina almost missed it. "I am." The next 18 hours tested both women in ways neither had expected. Alina threw herself into understanding every aspect of Nyx's unique physiology, while Zephyr maintained a vigilant watch that bordered on obsessive. The tension between them simmered constantly beneath the surface, erupting into arguments over treatment methods and recovery protocols. "The meditation crystals are essential for her healing," Zephyr insisted, placing several glowing stones around Nyx's bedside. "They attune her neural patterns to the cosmic frequencies of our homeworld." Alina fought to keep her voice level. "Those crystals are emitting electromagnetic radiation that could interfere with the medical equipment. I need accurate readings to monitor her progress." "Your machines cannot measure the health of her spirit," Zephyr retorted. "They only see flesh and bone, not the interconnected web of energy that makes her who she is." Their philosophical differences seemed insurmountable until Nyx took a sudden turn for the worse. The child's fever spiked dramatically, and the glowing symbols on her skin began flickering erratically. Alina's medical scanners showed dangerous neural fluctuations that threatened to cause permanent brain damage. "The traditional remedies aren't working," Alina said urgently as she prepared an injection. "I need to stabilize her neural pathways." "Immediately, no." Zephyr blocked her path. "Those chemicals will poison her system." "In our culture, fever is part of the cleansing process. We must let it run its course. She'll die if this continues," Alina shot back. "Her brain can't handle these fluctuations." They stared at each other across the small medical bed, two mothers from different worlds united in their desperation. But divided by their beliefs, Nyx whimpered in her delirium, calling out for both of them in her native tongue. "Please," Alina whispered, her professional composure finally cracking. "I can't watch her suffer like this. Let me help her." "Something." And Alina's voice penetrated Zephyr's defenses. The alien commander saw tears streaming down the human woman's face and realized that Alina's attachment to Nyx ran far deeper than mere professional obligation. "You truly care for her," Zephyr said. "Not quite a question. She's become precious to me," Alina admitted, not caring how vulnerable the confession made her sound. "I know she's not mine, but these past 2 days, watching her fight so hard to live, ... Zephyr studied Alina's face intently, as if seeing her clearly for the first time. "In our culture, we believe that souls choose their guardians across lifetimes. Perhaps Nyx's spirit called out to you because it knew you would answer." "I don't understand your beliefs," Alina said honestly, "but I respect them. Can't we find a way to combine our knowledge? Use both your spiritual healing and my medical techniques?" For long moments, Zephyr remained silent while Nyx's condition continued to deteriorate. Finally, she stepped aside. "Show me what you propose to do," she said quietly. Alina explained each medication and procedure, detailing how they would work with Nyx's unique physiology rather than against it. Zephyr listened intently, asking pointed questions that revealed her own deep understanding of her daughter's condition. "The cooling gel will lower her core temperature gradually," Alina continued, "while the neural stabilizer prevents the cascade. Failure in her brain. But you're right about one thing. I can't heal her spirit. That part has to come from you." Working together proved more challenging than either had anticipated. Their approaches were so fundamentally different that they had to relearn basic concepts about healing and medicine. But as they collaborated, something beautiful began to emerge, a synthesis of science and spirituality that neither could have achieved. Alone, Alina administered the medical treatments while Zephyr performed ancient healing chants, her voice weaving through the beeping of machines in surprising harmony. The meditation crystals were repositioned to work with rather than against the electronic equipment, creating a treatment environment unlike anything either woman had experienced. "Your hands," Zephyr observed, as Alina adjusted Nyx's fore. "Move like a healer's, not a scientist's. Have you ever lost a patient?" Alina's hands stilled momentarily. "Yes, too many. That's why I became a xenobiologist instead of practicing medicine. I thought studying alien life forms would be less personal." "But children are different," Zephyr said with understanding. "They bypass all our defenses, don't they?" "Especially this one," Alina admitted, smoothing Nyx's hair gently. "She has such strength, such curiosity about everything. When she looks at me with those silver eyes, I see pure trust. I can't betray that." Zephyr moved closer, close enough that Alina could feel the warmth radiating from her alien physiology. "On my world, we have a saying, the heart recognizes its own across any distance. I think your heart recognized Nyx's the moment you found her." Alina looked up to find Zephyr's intense gaze fixed on her face. The air between them seemed charged with something deeper than their shared concern for Nyx. Alina's pulse quickened as she realized how beautiful Zephyr was when she wasn't scowling in anger or rigid with military discipline. "And what does your heart recognize, Commander?" Alina asked softly. Before Zephyr could answer, Nyx stirred on the bed between them. Her fever had broken, and the symbols on her skin glowed with steady, healthy light. The child's eyes opened, clear and bright for the first time since the crisis began. "Mama," she whispered to Zephyr, then turned to Alina with a radiant smile. "Alina, Mama." Both women froze at the simple words that changed everything. The days following Nyx's recovery were filled with an awkward dance between Alina and Zephyr. The child's innocent declaration of "Alina, Mama" had created an emotional minefield that neither woman knew how to navigate, oblivious to the complexity. She had introduced, happily accepted both women's care as the most natural thing in the world. Alina found herself caught between professional duty and personal longing. Every logical part of her mind insisted that she should maintain appropriate boundaries. Yet her heart had already claimed this brave little girl and her fierce protector. She watched Zephyr teaching Nyx traditional songs and felt an ache she couldn't name. "You're conflicted," Dr. Webb observed during one of their brief consultations. "Anyone can see how attached you've become to both of them." "It doesn't matter what I feel," Alina replied, checking Nyx's latest test results. "They'll leave as soon as she's fully recovered. That's what's best for everyone." But even as she spoke the words, Alina knew they felt hollow. Losing Nyx tore at her heart in ways she hadn't expected, and losing Zephyr. That was a pain she wasn't ready to examine too closely. Zephyr was struggling with her own internal conflict. Her military training demanded that she extract Nyx from the human station as quickly as possible and return to Coalition space. Yet she found herself lingering, creating excuses to extend their stay. She told herself it was purely for Nyx's well-being, but she couldn't ignore her growing fascination with Alina. "Tell me about your world," Alina requested one evening as they sat beside Nyx's sleeping form. "I want to understand where she comes from." Zephyr's expression softened as she began describing the crystal cities of her homeworld, the singing forests that responded to emotional states, and the vast libraries where knowledge was stored in living memory banks. Alina listened with rapt attention, asking questions that revealed genuine curiosity rather than mere politeness. "And your family?" Alina asked carefully. "Besides Nyx, I mean." A shadow crossed Zephyr's face. "Nyx's father died in the border wars 3 years ago. Since then, it has been just the two of us. The Coalition expects me to remarry for political reasons, but ... double quotes. She trailed off, her jaw tightening. "But you can't imagine loving someone else," Alina finished quietly. Zephyr looked at her in surprise. "How did you know?" "Because I've never found anyone worth risking my heart for either," Alina admitted, "till recently." The words hung between them, laden with implications neither was quite ready to address directly. Zephyr's pulse quickened as she recognized the tentative invitation in Elena's voice. "Elena," she began, then stopped as Nyx stirred in her sleep. The child murmured something in her native language, and both women leaned closer to listen. Elena had been learning basic phrases, driven by her desire to communicate more fully with Nyx. "She's dreaming about the three of us," Zephyr translated. Softly, she says, "We're flying together through the stars, exploring new worlds." "That sounds like a beautiful dream," Elena whispered, her hand unconsciously moving to cover Zephyr's where it rested on the bed. The touch sent electricity racing through both of them.
Oh.
Zephyr didn't pull away, and Elena found the courage to intertwine their fingers. For several heartbeats, they sat in charged silence, connected by the warm weight of their joined hands. "This is impossible," Zephyr said finally, but she made no move to withdraw from Elena's touch. "Why?" Elena challenged gently. "Because we're from different species? Because it's politically complicated? Those seem like excuses, not reasons."
Yes.
Turned to face her fully, her silver eyes reflecting inner turmoil. "Because when I look at you, I feel things I swore I never would again. Because Nyx has already claimed you as family, and She took a shaky breath. "I want to claim you, too." Elena's heart pounded as she leaned closer. "Then claim me." The kiss was gentle at first, tentative as both women explored this new territory. But as Zephyr's arms came up to frame Elena's face, the contact deepened into something that spoke of desperate longing and infinite possibility. Elena had never felt anything like the warmth that spread through her body at Zephyr's touch. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. Zephyr rested her forehead against Elena's, her eyes closed as if she were memorizing the moment. "Oh, happens now?" Elena whispered. "I don't know," Zephyr admitted. "The Coalition Council will expect me to return immediately. There will be questions about why I've remained here so long. What will you tell them?" Zephyr opened her eyes, and Elena was struck by the vulnerability she saw there alongside the fierce determination. "That I found something worth fighting for," Zephyr said simply. "2, someone's actually." They were interrupted by Nyx stirring awake, her bright eyes immediately focusing on their joined hands with obvious delight. She said something in her musical language that made Zephyr laugh, a sound Elena realized she'd never heard before. "What did she say?" Elena asked, charmed by the child's evident approval. "She said she knew her dream would come true because she wished on every star during our journey here," Zephyr translated, her eyes sparkling with amusement. "And then she asked if you're going to be her second mama for real now." Elena looked at Nyx's expectant face, then at Zephyr's hopeful expression. Future was uncertain, filled with diplomatic complications and cultural challenges that seemed almost insurmountable. But looking at this little girl who had captured her heart and the woman who had awakened feelings she'd never known existed, Elena knew there was only one answer she could give. "If you'll have me," she said to both of them. Then yes. We're a family now." Nyx's delighted squeal of joy could probably be heard throughout the station. 3 months later, Elena stood on the observation deck of Coalition Starship Harmony, watching the stars streak past as they traveled toward Zephyr's homeworld. The diplomatic negotiations had been complex and sometimes heated, but Ambassador Kane had ultimately recognized the unprecedented opportunity for human coalition. Cooperation that Elena and Zephyr's relationship represented. "Elena, Mama, look," Nyx called excitedly from across the spacious quarters they now shared as a family. The child had adapted to their new life with remarkable resilience, thriving under the attention of 2 devoted mothers. Elena turned to see Nyx proudly displaying a holographic star chart she had created during her lessons with the ship's navigation officer. The child's natural curiosity and intelligence had impressed everyone on the crew, and she was already showing aptitude for both human and coalition technologies. "That's beautiful, little star," Elena said, using the affectionate nickname that had developed naturally. "Are you mapping our route home?" "Home," Nyx repeated thoughtfully, then looked between Elena and Zephyr.
Oh.
"All our homes. Your world, Mama Zephyr's world, and the new world we'll make together." Zephyr appeared in the doorway, having just finished her daily briefing with the ship's captain. Her formal military uniform had been replaced with flowing civilian clothes that highlighted her graceful movements. The change was more than cosmetic. Zephyr had resigned her active military commission to become a cultural liaison, role that would allow their unconventional family to remain together. "The council has approved our proposal," Zephyr announced, her voice carefully controlled, but her eyes shining with excitement. "The joint research station will be built in the neutral zone, with equal representation from both our peoples." Alina felt her heart soar. The research facility had been their compromise solution, a place where they could work together to advance both human and coalition science, while providing Nyx with exposure to both cultures. More importantly, it would be theirs, a home they had built together rather than one where any of them would be perpetual outsiders. "And the other families?" Alina asked, referring to the handful of other interspecies couples who had emerged in the wake of their public relationship. "All approved for relocation if they choose," Zephyr confirmed with satisfaction. "It seems we've started something of a revolution in both our societies." That evening, as they prepared for sleep in their shared quarters, Alina reflected on how dramatically her life had changed. The woman who had once avoided personal attachments to focus on her research now found herself part of a ready-made family that challenged everything she thought she knew about love and belonging. "No regrets?" Zephyr asked softly, settling beside Alina on their bed, while Nyx slept peacefully in the adjacent room. "Only that it took a crisis to bring us together," Alina replied honestly, turning into Zephyr's embrace. "I can't imagine my life without either of you now." Zephyr's arms tightened around her. "On my world, we believe that the universe conspires to bring together souls that are meant to find each other. Perhaps Nyx's accident was simply the catalyst we needed." "Mama Alina, Mama Zephyr." Nyx's sleepy voice called from her room. "Can you tell me the story about how you found each other again?" Alina and Zephyr exchanged amused glances. This had become their daughter's favorite bedtime story, requested almost nightly since their journey began. They settled on either side of Nyx's small bed, and Alina began the familiar tale. "Once upon a time, there was a little girl brave enough to crash land on a space station, where she would find not one mama, but two." As she spoke, Alina watched Zephyr's face in the soft glow of the night lights. The alien woman's features had lost the hard edges of military discipline, placed by the soft contentment of someone who had found her place in the universe. When their eyes met across their daughter's bed, Alina saw her own joy reflected back at her. "And they all lived happily ever after?"
"Ow!"
Nyx prompted drowsily, even though she knew the ending by heart.
Us.
"They all lived lovingly ever after," Alina corrected gently, the phrase they had developed to better capture their reality. Because happiness was fleeting, but love, the fierce, protective, nurturing love that bound their little family together, that was eternal. As Nyx drifted off to sleep, Alina and Zephyr returned to their own bed, the quiet darkness of space. Surrounded by infinite possibilities, they held each other close and planned their future. There would be challenges ahead, cultural misunderstandings, political pressures, and the simple daily work of building a life together across species lines. But they had something stronger than any obstacle they might face. They had each other, and they had Nyx, and they had proven that love could bridge any distance, overcome any difference, and create family from the most unlikely circumstances. "I love you," Alina whispered into the darkness. "And I love you," Zephyr replied, pressing a gentle kiss to Alina's temple. "Both of you, my unexpected family." In her sleep, Nyx smiled as if she could hear their words, secure in the knowledge that she was surrounded by love. The stars outside continued their eternal dance, bearing the small family toward their new home and whatever adventures awaited them there. The rescue that had begun with a crashed ship and a dying child had ultimately saved them all. That sometimes the most profound journeys start with a single act of compassion and the courage to open one's heart to the impossible.